So Steve Cunningham defeats Natu Visinia with a 7th round TKO. This was actually a pretty entertaining scrap for the most part. Both guys were around the same height. Steve Cunningham 6'3", Natu Visinia is 6'2", but incredibly, Visinia was 73 pounds heavier. And yes, a lot of that was fat, but a lot of that was muscle and natural bone density and size. So if you trimmed Visinia down and took all the fat off him, he's still going to be a very, very solid, 235, 240 pound heavyweight. Okay, so he was legitimately a bigger man than Steve Cunningham. It wasn't just a blob with a stick insect inside, So yeah, it was a pretty entertaining scrap. Visinia looked dangerous in the early rounds. He was landing good body shots. He was millimeters away from landing some big headshots than Steve Cunningham in the early going. Cunningham was slipping and sliding, blocking and countering, trying to get Visinia under control because Visinia was, like I say, coming in like a bulldozer and throwing very, very heavy shots. And you don't want to get caught with you're caught by a guy who's 73 pounds heavier than you and he's putting his weight behind the shots. You don't want to get caught, especially not when you're a little guy like Cunningham. He only weighed 205 pounds. So yeah, it was, the early going was pretty treacherous for Steve Cunningham, but he got the fight under control. Cunningham actually stood with Visinia and banged it out with him a few times. And I think he felt like he had to do that because he had to get Visinia's respect. Visinia was so much bigger. He was just walking in all the time. So Cunningham had to stand with him a couple times and bang it out with him and let him know, look, I got some power as well. I know I'm a little guy, but, the accumulation of these punches is going to hurt you. So I think he was successful in getting some respect from Visinia. And then he started dominating on the outside behind the jab. In fact, to be honest with you, throughout the whole fight, you could probably only give, in my opinion, Visinia maybe one, maybe 2 rounds in the fight. Okay, the fight went 7 rounds. You could give him 1 definitely because of the knockdown, which he scored in the 5th. And you could maybe give him another round. But like I say, Cunningham started dominating from the outside, peppering him with jabs and good body shots, jab to the body, combinations to the head. And in the 5th round, that was Visinia's best round when he scored a knockdown from a right hand. Didn't really hurt Cunningham. Cunningham kind of half blocked it, but the sheer weight of the punch literally knocked Cunningham off balance and off his feet. So you can't really complain that much about the knockdown, but Cunningham certainly wasn't hurt. He got back up. 6th round was Cunningham's biggest round. He really punished Visinia in that round and seemed to actually shake him a bit. Visinia's face was getting busted up. He had a bleeding nose. His mouth was bleeding, and he was looking quite sorry for himself. And Cunningham was really unloading on him in the 6th round. And in the 7th round, it was kind of more of the same. Not quite as dominant as the 6th, but you could see that Visinia was slowing down more and more and more, and his offense was, just going downhill basically. So at the end of the 7th round, the referee stopped the fight. Now I'm not sure if Visinia quit because he did apparently have a cut in his mouth and his face was looking a little worse for wear. His nose was bleeding and whatnot, but there was nothing overtly bad about the damage that he suffered. So I wonder whether Visinia actually quit himself on his stool or whether his corner pulled him out. Apparently, what they announced on the TV, on the broadcast, was that the referee had stopped it. But maybe he stopped it because Visinia said he doesn't want no more. Maybe he whispered in the referee's ear and said, I don't want no more. I don't know, because like I say, the facial damage that he had, normally a referee wouldn't stop a fight on that, kind of facial damage. And it's not like he was in there with a big power puncher who had dropped him several times. Nothing like that had happened. So it was a little bit of a surprising stoppage, but nonetheless, Cunningham wins legitimately. He dominated the guy for the most part and goes on to bigger and better things. And this is the second undefeated heavyweight that Steve Cunningham has defeated in a row. He obviously defeated Amir Mansour, and now he's defeated Visinia. So yeah, let me know what you thought about the fight. Visinia, he was only 10-0 going into the fight, so very inexperienced and probably a big miscalculation by his management to put him in with a guy like Steve Cunningham after only 10 fights. Or maybe they were cashing out. Maybe they don't really think Visinia is that good. Who knows? But as far as Steve Cunningham, there's life in the old dog yet. There's definitely paydays out there for him. He's up at heavyweight. He only weighed 205 pounds, so he could easily still make cruiserweight. Cruiserweight's 200 pounds. So, losing 5 pounds in waterweight, I mean, that's the same as Mayweather fighting down at 147. Mayweather he just loses 5 pounds and then fights at 147. It's not a big deal. So if Mayweather can do it and he's only 5'8", then a guy 6'3" like Cunningham can easily lose 5 pounds of water weight, you know, the day before a fight and make cruiserweight without any problem at all, without losing any strength, easily. Even David Haye, I've had arguments with people online who say that David Haye couldn't make cruiserweight anymore. You know, he'd kill himself. Complete bullshit. David Haye only weighs 209 pounds when he fights a heavyweight. In the Vladimir fight, he was 209 or 208 pounds. Okay, 8 pounds of water weight is easy for a guy that's 6'3", like David Haye, to lose 8 pounds of water weight before a fight. That is easy peasy. He wouldn't be drained at all. Most middleweights and light middleweights and welterweights lose more than that to make weight, and they don't. And most of the time, they don't come in drained. So don't give me no bullshit about David Haye can't get down to cruiserweight. He can easily get down to cruiserweight without struggling at all, really. But all the big money is at heavyweight for guys like David Haye and Steve Cunningham, so they fight at heavyweight. It's got nothing to do with them being too big for the weight class or anything like that. They could both still easily make cruiserweight, no problem, without being weak or anything. But yeah, the money's at heavyweight. So who would you like to see Cunningham in with next? Who do you think is a good fight for him out there? Obviously, he wants a shot at world champion. He'd like to go in there with Vladimir. He'd like to go in there with Chigayev, or the winner of Chigayev against Ortiz, or obviously Deontay Wilder against Bermane Stiverne. Who could you see Cunningham going in there and giving the most problems? What do you think is a good fight for Steve? Drop your comments below. Let me know how what you thought about the fight, and also your thoughts on Visinia. This is Hatman. I'm out.